Hello and welcome to the third episode of the mini-series of panel discussion on the emerging skill education and work integrated learning landscape in India, especially post NEP 2020 and the kind of opportunities the policy has created for many people to come up with innovative courses that help our youth become employable. So in this series, we have touched upon important aspects in the earlier two episodes. These included the complete understanding of the changes that are happening and what it means for various stakeholders, especially if they want to scale their initiatives or look for ways to sustain whatever they have been doing, because as we know, anything that is emerging and evolving poses many challenges and it requires a lot of patience and perseverance for us to keep going. So here in the last episode, we are going to ask our experts, the panelists, about important action points that can have a very great positive impact all across the country, especially with educational leaders who represent short-term skilling programs or those who are coming from the schools or at the higher education level. So let me get started by introducing you the panelists. Dr. Gayathri Vasudevan, Chief Impact Officer, Sambhav Foundation and Chairperson, LabourNet. Mr. Raj Gilda, Co-founder, Lend a Hand India, popularly known as LAHI. And Dr. Raj Nehru, Vice Chancellor, Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana. So in case you haven't watched the earlier two episodes, please do watch them. We have shared the links in the description. And now let's get going by asking few important aspects of how one can get started and also how one can sustain the initiatives and also do it successfully. So let's get going and learn from the leaders by understanding what they have to say and what these action points could be. Now, before we close this discussion, I would have actually loved to ask you many more questions, but I'm sure you have time constraints, and first of all, I need to thank you again for giving us this time. So the last part of this, I would like to ask you something very concrete and very action oriented for three of you. We need to hear from you at least 3 action points, and these should be targeted at people who are interested to really contribute to the skill education at various levels, school level, college level, or even short-term training which is outside the system, or ITIs, or there are a lot of people who are interested but they don't know how to get into it, or even if they are there, there is a certain kind of lack of clarity as they are navigating this phase. I would say this phase actually started from my observation when the ministry started, when skill development ministry started working closely with the Ministry of Education. That I see is a very big shift. Actually, the shift started from there, and then it started reflecting in the policy, and then in various other things, and physically their offices, many things, and all action happening in Delhi, and there's so many things. So everybody knows about this, and there is an element of I would say uncertainty and things like that, some kind of discomfort. So I would first like to ask Dr. Gayathri, what would be your advice to people who want to enter into this ecosystem and also contribute, and also they are aware that we need to have quality training, we need to work with the industry, there's a lot of awareness, but that hesitance is there. So what would you like to say?
Yeah, I think I'd say first and foremost, you have resilience, because this is not an easy journey. I think it is there is a financial struggle in this. It's not going to be an easy journey. So I think those who want to, there are different segments one can enter, but if you really want to look at those who are disadvantaged and you want to give them legs up, the first thing I would ask is resilience. The second thing I would say, I don't think I'm in any position to give advice, but I could say from my experience, I could share that what is important is to be agile. and agility is important, resilience is important, and to always look at saying what's the right thing to do. I think if you provide value, you will make mistakes, but at least you would have learned from those mistakes and you'd make amends. And what I mean by that is, look at it like this: anybody who is coming into short term training is somebody who, I think Raj put it very nicely, saying that it is, you know, they are either going to be considered as poor and therefore have no options, or backward. And I'm not defining these things, but fundamentally, education system hasn't worked for them. So if we are trying to fix something there, I think the first thing is a reality check as to what is the right percentage of weekly changes that one can expect, including things like attendance is important. Experiential learning, which the NCRF actually asks for, is industry exposure. In my mind, is just one thing, right? There is a spectrum around observership to internship to capstone to experiential learning. How do you apply these in everyday life becomes important. So someone should keep looking at the learning process, and I think the most complex is course to job role, because the expectation and aspiration of the student versus what the industry will give is always difficult, right? And different countries have different models. Like Mexico, most people cannot even go to 9th and 10th. So they're saying that, education needs to be a pyramid, so higher education should be limited. India has gone the other side of the spectrum, where we have 1,000 universities. We also have a number of higher education. So for us, at the sort of, the juxtaposition between schools and between higher education, it's important for us to figure out the place that is there, and anybody in this field has to do that. I would say anybody who is looking at short-term training should look at it from a perspective of both corporate social responsibility. CER is important also now because of the whole environmental issues, as well as at learning and development. All three are important areas that one should really look at, and build solutions which are right, because we're always going to be dealing with adults. So when we're going to be dealing with adults, our learning, teaching methodologies, learning of the candidates, learning patience is also something one should consider. And this should always be, one should not forget that education, school education, is the feeder. So if we all don't work towards strengthening school education and think, I'm just going to quote it, dhanda hai ye, nahi chalega. It will not work. Because ultimately, if education is not strong, you're going to have weaker students who are coming into your centers. Micro-credentialing can only work, short-term training can only work if fundamentals are strong. So all of us, it is in our interest as citizens to have that strong. Then is the other side of the same, that's why you're saying we're juxtaposed, is can higher education even absorb? So if I go to Raj sir and say, will you take my student? He should be able to say, you know what, you give me good students. He's not going to say, I can pick up anything and, make it work. So our job is that to ensure both sides, you keep it in mind, and then you juggle that, juggle the balls there. But I repeat, we should not forget that school education has to be strong. Yeah. And skills in schools is, according to me, while I really do this part of it more, but I do fundamentally believe that as a citizen of the country, we should not forget that in our interest, short-term interest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think there are so many points which we can pick up and go deeper into when we want to take this advice and implement it. So, Mr. Raj Gilda, I think you can add to what she has said, compliment, and I think you have a very important role to play now because Dr. Gayathri has mentioned school so many times. And school is, I think, like we all know, it's the foundation. So, please give us your advice and action points, I would say.
So I think advice will be too strong. We can just share what we sort of, think, right? I think I'll talk in terms of what each of us can contribute, different parts of the society, right? So if I look at it from employer point of view, we have seen internship for high school students working really well. So we have been running this program for internship for 11th and 12th grade students. And they are doing phenomenally well. So I think the employers are willing to take such interns and try them out. But they will find a new pipeline of employees, which is, talent is always an issue. We ourselves are now hiring 12th pass students. We hire them as skill mitra. And we have seen that within 2 years, they are probably performing better than my full-time, employees as well. So I think from employer standpoint, investing into a 12th pass student as well and not really looking for a degree per se, nothing to do with Dr. Nehru here, but it is more that, that it really opens up a new area of work integrated sort of, education. That is one. Secondly, I think from school management point of view, like what Gayathri mentioned, I think dhanda hai, we will not be able to take it out of the equation, right? Because, that's a reality. But then the sooner they accept that this is going to be what is going to be the future, because what you have seen, we started working about 17 years back. At that time, we had to sell skill education or vocational education to people, to parents, to policymakers, to funders, and otherwise. Biggest changing now, nobody needs to be convinced about it anymore. It is more of logistics. Kitna der karoge, kitna kharcha aayega, and other things too. So I think school management, the sooner they get on the bandwagon, better off they would be, right? Thirdly, from the civil society point of view, today, unfortunately, Lenda India is the only civil, NGO which is really focused on school education as sort of, at scale, skill education within school. So we really want others to sort of come into the picture, into this and try it out. We'll be happy to provide whatever technical support is needed, share the learning as well. And the last but not the least, the trainer, right, or the teacher, whatever we call it. Because at the end of the day, no fancy curriculum tools, labs is going to matter unless the person who is in front of the student or working with the students. So this whole gig-based economy, and I have a very high hopes ki once this becomes universal, so many of skilled people are there who are willing to contribute to the school education system, right? But today they don't have ability to contribute. And I'm hoping a platform will be there, and we ourselves are working on such, where we are able to match the skills of people with what is needed in the school. Almost it is like, imagine, urban company for trainers, vocational trainers, right? In that, and what it can lead to, right? So I think much more to do, but really excited, and I think all of us can contribute to the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for pointing out this trainers and teachers part of it. I really wish we could go a bit deeper into it because we hear a lot and we have heard from, like the horse's mouth. So many of them attend our workshops and webinars also, and there's quite a lot of issues there, but maybe some other time we will again get back to you. Thank you. So I would request Dr. Raj Nehru to share his advice and action points from the higher education perspective.
Yeah, so all of them have spoken about school, so I don't want myself to be left out. See, the fundamental objective of education is development and developing confidence and developing motivation and strength among the children when they grow up. That helps them to stand in public and differentiate between right and wrong. That all can happen when education in childhood is given in such a way that helps them to discover their cognitive skills and problem-solving skills. So what I feel is that India's school education system and with the emergence of the skill-based education and vocational education and national education policy 2020, I think the strengthening of school education is fundamentally important if we want to get a right output which becomes the input for the higher education. So that's number one. Number two is that we have so much of data because I continuously work for last 9 years here, and before that I have been in IBM for almost 15, 17 years and done a lot of recruitment and hiring. There's a lot of data that shows a mismatch between the skills at higher education or universities and skills for employability. Now, this mismatch is primarily because of many reasons. One, we have not created the right ecosystem in higher education institutions. We have not aligned that ecosystem to the fast-paced changing needs in the market. So today, I find many faculties having no idea about what's happening in the world of work. They are they show their expertise in designing and developing fancy programs, but without any clarity about what exactly is the employer or the market looking at. So I think this mismatch where the employer, where the educational institution, and where the potential employee, the student, they are all working in silos. This gap has to be filled, and that can only happen when the institutional leadership is strengthened. Their ecosystem, their understanding, their purpose, the clarity of why this institution and what for this institution, what is the objective of this higher education institution in the current context is understood and is executed. The third is very fundamental. When you are in higher education, especially in the current system, national education policy is talking about it, is about the flexible pathways to create, in the education system. As I said in the beginning, the democratization of education is fundamentally important, and in that, the flexible entry and exit approach that we are talking about, I think. What is more important when we talk about the flexible entry and exit, they are purposeful exits and purposeful entries. So today I see when I meet many educational institution heads, they say, yes, we have given the exit at each level, but what is that exit meant for? What is the idea behind that exit? Most of the people, most of the times, they miss that fundamental purpose. So I think there's a need for a purposeful, flexible entry-exit system to be created in the educational system. There is a big need for credit portability, which is again the part of the democratization of the education. I think another thing what institutions need to do is, today in India we have a huge chunk of population who is not in higher education. When I say that, I mean gross enrollment ratio is calculated for the age group of 18 to 23, in which today our gross enrollment ratio is somewhere around 28-20% of 145 million population. You have only approximately 40 million population enrolled in higher education. Almost 100 million population is not enrolled. But the data says out of this 105 million population, you have 50% of this population which is eligible to be in higher education, but they are into the labor market because they have not enrolled into higher education, or they have not got the options of getting into the higher education. So the population is becoming bigger and bigger, means today you have large number of people working in the labor market without any formal qualifications of higher education or formal specialized qualification. So why not create a mechanism of recognition of prior learning in higher education for this population? This will not only solve our gross enrollment ratio that the NEP is targeted, it will also help in improving the productivity, the employability, the growth, the self-employment, the mobility of this population. So I think this is another thing that I feel that's a focus area for India to look at.
Well, thank you. I think this was really a very, very important, list of all the points that you mentioned, especially those that are actionable and can be taken up. Thanks once again. Before I close this, is there something else any one of you wishes to share that you missed sharing with us?
My only one-liner: innovate and create your credibility in the market. That's the mantra for you to grow.
Thank you. So, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are really very happy to have this discussion. As I said earlier, also, it was very difficult for us to get all three of you at the same time, but it means a lot since you gave us this time, and we look forward to be in touch with you. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So this episode gave us few important action points which we can implement, and also a lot of learning that we had from these experts who have had decades of experience not only in India but also internationally. I hope you found this series useful, and in case you have any comments or observations to share, you can share it in the comment section or write into us at contact@nationalskillsnetwork.com. So I invite you to also subscribe to our e-magazine The Skill Times by going to our website, and also you can subscribe it from the link which is shared in the description. And also feel free to share this link with your friends and your professional network, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any update from us. Thank you so much.